Let's say you want code, and of course you might think, well, that became a bit easier because we now have AI, don't we? And here we're going to talk about something which is happening very quickly. It's called the delivery gap, and I have an expert on the matter with me here today. Hello and welcome, Brenn Hill.
Hi, glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time. You just wrote a book, and the book is called The Delivery Gap. And of course, when it's about books, I have to ask one question first, because let's face it, it is not easy to write a book. It takes a lot of time. So my question, of course, has to be, when you said I'm going to write a book about the delivery gap, what was your core motivation in the first place to write a book in today's times?
Actually, I did not originally intend to write this book. Was going to write a different book on AI called AI Augmented Dev because I have a background in technology and writing code. And as I was working with the technology and diving into how it was playing out in organizations and, talking to my network, I realized it was the wrong book. The book about how to use AI to write code was the wrong one. Everyone was already writing code. The problem was they weren't getting anything out of it. They were producing all this code and it wasn't going anywhere, and no one was getting any return on their investment. And that's what I saw in the data and what I was seeing. And so the original book was completely shelved. I had written a lot of it and I just scrapped most of the content and basically ended up starting again. And that became this book, which I felt was an important story to tell because even like with my current company and my network, I was watching this play out, right? Like, how do we make sure that if we're going to spend all this money and time and energy on AI, we get something for it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's face it. When we look at the reality at the moment, what is actually up is the pull requests. The review quality, however, is not, let's say, where it should be. So how can this be solved? Because most people will tell you, look, we can't bring the pull request number down because we're going faster, 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 faster. So that will rather go up. How do you want to make the review quality better without running into massive risk where compliance is never going to say yes to?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the crux of the book. So first, everyone should read it. But the thing to understand is, it's not just about pull requests. It's about the entire life cycle of the code you're creating, right? So even if you create a bunch of pull requests and let's say you merge them, if you have incidents later and you're like busy answering angry phone calls or your services are,
Hmm.
that's not helping your business. Going faster into a wall just means it hurts more, right?
Yeah.
So it's more about like acting with certainty and making sure that whatever speed you get is worth having. Is it better to go 10 times faster in the wall or 2 times faster, but with clarity, certainty, and knowing you're building the right thing? And there's actually a couple different ways, a couple different walls people hit. One is they build the wrong thing. They're so overjoyed with the ability of AI to just make stuff that they make tons of
Hmm.
stuff, whether they need it or not. And then they have to maintain it. People think that the hard part, the expensive part of code is making the code, but it's really that once it's in production, once people are using it or even not using it, you're also spending your time, your energy, your tokens, whatever, maintaining it. And then even if it is the right code, can you trust it, right? Can you trust that what you've sent to the production actually works the way you want it to? So there's a lot of ways this can all go wrong. And then, of course, there's just cost control. How much did it actually cost you to deliver? And it turns out a lot of organizations can't really measure this either. So they don't even know if they're getting a return on the investment.
Mm. So when you now talk to organizations, because I of course prepared for this interview, when I talk to other organizations, they said, look, this is just how things are. Either you can do the everything we do with human proof, so we review it with humans, which is too expensive, or we go into a certain risk and we do it automatically somehow, but then the risk goes up, and that is something you have to live with. Would you agree on that approach, or do you think that you can go, let's say, low risk, but not 100% human approved because that might be the too expensive approach?
You're always taking, even if you want all humans, you're taking some risk, right? So the risk reward trade-off depends on what you're doing and what your business is, right? So if you're doing tax software or it has to survive audit, you have and or regulated industries, you have a different risk profile than say something that makes like cat cartoons for YouTube, right? Like
Mm.
really extreme different risk profiles.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true. Yeah.
and you've got to just be really honest with yourself about what is your risk profile. And then, yeah, but you can blend them, right? So a lot of the book is about this. It's like, what do you need to put in place, whether you're regulated or not? So there are organizations like Stripe that have been very successful shipping software with AI, but they're doing financial software. They're a regulated industry. So it is possible to do. But the thing about these organizations that are successful doing it is they've invested long before AI a tremendous amount of energy and money into verification and quality software and setup and workflows so that they can move fast even with humans in a trusted way. And now in the age of AI, it really pays off. But for most organizations, they never invested that hard into that sort of quality control software and processes and so on. And so when they have AI added, they go really fast and then it explodes. They just don't have everything tight like that. And so a lot of the book is about what do you need to put in place as a company, regardless of risk profile. Obviously, if you're higher risk, you need to do it more so that you can get that speed up because most organizations, they don't get any speed up at all. In fact, a lot
Mm,
of them go bad. They spend a ton of money on AI tokens. They create 3 times as many pull requests. No more get into production. So they aren't going faster. And the ones they get in production are buggier. So they spend a
mm,
lot of money to have a worse outcome. Well, that's
yeah.
not what you want as a business. I would rather go 2 times as fast, not 10, but have it actually be worth something. And so this is what I work with organizations about is like, how do you get, and start at 2. If you can't get to 2, you're not going to 10, right?
Mm.
So how do you get to 2 first?
I
Yeah,
think that's a great point here. And you talk about something in the book, and of course anyone should buy and read it. You call it the verification triangle. Can you
right.
give a bit more detail on the verification triangle?
Sure. So basically, I give a very simple model. This is more for management on where to look. There's inputs, there's outputs, and there's cost. That's the triangle. So the input is about getting intent clarity. AI makes it very easy to be agile in a way that, people have talked about agility for a long time, but it's like, how do you know you're building the right thing? And the thing is, with AI, you can actually iterate and prototype very, very quick. The final output may not be production worthy. This is the disconnect. People build a prototype and they think, oh, we'll put this into production. It's ready because it looks good or it works on their
Mm,
computer. It's not ready, but you can quickly test to see if it's at least the right thing, right? So use that, leverage that to iterate really fast to find the right thing to build the correct way, and then invest in building that right. And that's your output. And there's a bunch of ways that I talk about, like quality gates and things like that. Measure the quality of your output. Right, so that's the second gate. And then all of that has a cost, a fully loaded cost, tokens, human time, infrastructure that you've put into it. And a lot of times companies don't even know how to measure this. And so they're not able to measure ROI. So you want to have a project. What is the input? Do you know you're building the right project? You finally get the output. How much did it cost you and where did those costs go? And so if you're an engineering leader like myself, this is what you need to know. And so I give some examples of how you calculate this and dive into it. And then you know where your energy, time, money is going and whether you're successful or not. And then if you need to go to your CEO or your board or whatever, you've got all the data because you know what data to get.
yeah. Absolutely. And of course, you know what you're talking about because I thoroughly background check every single person that gets on this podcast. So you have a real world career here. You're American, live in Berlin, you work internationally, you worked in Asia, world, all over the world. So you really are in these projects. And now some people might wonder, okay, look, I'm going to buy the book, I'm going to read the book, and then some people might think, I think we still need help here. And I think you can offer help here. So, of course, the final question of the interview is how can get people in touch with you when they say, I think Brenn could be a great contribution, either as a keynote speaker or a coach or a trainer or someone someone working on our projects.
Yeah, just reach out on LinkedIn. I'm very easy to reach, or send my email or any other ways. Like I have a website on Substack. Any of those ways will work. I'm happy to hear from people.
Excellent. So at the end of this podcast, at the end of the videocast, we now know the delivery gap is the one you need to close, and Brenn is the person to talk to. So at the end of this podcast and videocast, there's only one thing left for me to say. Brenn, thank you very much for
Thank
your
you
time.
for having me.